Very, very warm welcome for the 16th Telecom Leadership Forum. Our speaker is Mr. Sanjay Kaul, Managing Director for the Service Provider Business for India and SAARC at Cisco.
Great to be here, and I think it's indeed a pleasure to partner with Voice and Data and Cybermedia. It's a little bit focus on how do you win in the digital era and what kind of change we need to embark. And have we as an industry changed? Absolutely. I think there has been a phenomenal change over the last 10 years in the industry. I think we are the only country in the world that's generating the kind of EBITDA we did in the voice regime at a tariff we've got in this country. I think that takes a lot of innovation to make it happen. So this digitization, of course, has a lot of reward at the end, but if you don't act, you're disrupted. And I think our chairman a couple of years back in Barcelona said that all 40% of incumbents today across industries will not exist in the next 5 to 10 years. So that is it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate being invited here. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Sanjay. A very, very interesting and insightful session. Our next speaker is Mr. Eko Nelson, Executive Vice President and Regional Head for IT and Cloud Business at Ericsson. Mr. Nelson.
So I'll be talking about our digital transformation, our perspectives on digital transformation, and what that means for industries just outside of telecom. We share a lot of information. There are so many likes on the internet, and a huge amount of interaction amongst various people across the globe, which is taking place at an unprecedented level. A large part of this is driven by empowerment. A lot of consumers have become a lot more empowered than they ever were. We have seen a lot of control, computational power shift from the center, from computers into handsets. Today's handsets have got as much power as the 360 computer that IBM built in the 1960s. We have consumers who have large access to a large wealth of information across the world, whether it's Facebook or is Google. We always turn to those applications to get the world at our fingertips. We're able to interact with almost anything that we want to do in the world at our fingertips. So there's a huge amount of empowerment that these technologies have given us as individuals. And finally, the technology you need for this is not the technology you have today. You need to evolve your technology. Please respect the past. The old technology served you. What got you here will not get you there in the future. So respect the past, but don't think that you can turn your existing technology into a digital technology. Google's technology, Facebook's technology is not history, it's a new technology. So if you're going to embark on this journey, do really think about leaving your old technology behind, and then moving to the new technology that enables you to become digital. You cannot build the future on the past. Thank you very much.
Taking that discussion forward, it's my pleasure to announce our next session, which is aligning India's broadband with the Digital India mission. Amitabh, can I invite you to take the stage, please?
Let me just start by saying that Digital India vision is about transforming India into a digitally empowered society and a knowledge economy. And the three focus areas that it talks about is digital infrastructure as the core utility, governance and services on demand, and digital empowerment of citizens.
Let me come to the topic, and thank you, Amitabh, for creating a clear background to what's actually happening. Mobile happened because government let it loose. They allow people to do whatever they want to do, and they had some minimum regulation, and they got money, and everything was done. In the broadband area, something similar is not happening because the incumbents, the telcos, they are probably busy with too many issues which they are dealing as of now.
India has some of the most unique challenges that we've seen globally. We have the lowest ARPU in the world. We have the highest spectrum costs in the world. We have a vast majority of population still to be connected. We have one of the highest interest rates in the world. The amount of debt, the leverage that we have is about 4.2 times today in terms of debt to EBITDA. So from various aspects, the operators themselves are constrained in terms of how they can invest in the networks.
I think all this idea about the broadband across digital India all across is fantastic. Every child in our rural village or remote village has to have that internet connection to make the country prosper. I feel that we need to really seriously look at rural side of digital divide and bring in some good latest technologies, and satellite really becomes I'm giving an example, 1:100 cost level. Something seriously has to be done to bring in very fast. I know that the policymakers are looking at it, but I think we can definitely meet some of those December 2018 targets on digital India. If satellite capacity, even the current satellite capacities over the sky which is controlled, which is being deregulated as per the policies and can be done.
Going through the digital disruption and making sure you're involving your organization, because it's not only about technology. I think you need to attack it on multiple fronts. It's about processes, it's the organization, the culture of the organization that has to become digital.
In the Indian ecosystem today, the consumers are requiring something for the first time. What is happening now, consumers are requiring much high speed, much high amount of data that needs to be downloaded, and at the same time a very low fast response, which is low latency speed.
Millennials and young people are basically looking to interact more through digital channels and want the convenience and want to use the computational power of the devices that they have today to be able to execute anything and everything that they want to do in their life. And India has got quite a young population, and so there's a huge amount of interest.
Before we get into the panel discussion, I want to flip the whole sequencing. If we just look at the cloud computing itself, I mean, as a paradigm, yes, cloud computing as a term has been around for almost a decade now.
The Indian telecoms and more or less in Southeast Asia, I think the telecom market understands the benefits that would come from virtualizing the network, from using the concept of a telco cloud and offloading some of the cost, and at the same time bringing the agility. Yeah. So there's a lot of, I would say, traction in the market. There is an existing legacy investment and the need to change my operating model around these new paradigms of cloud and SDN and FE.
I think cloud is gaining a very different kind of momentum because of digital drive. So both of them are actually helping each other to grow. And I mean, the simplest definition of a digital model is where the consumer gets directly connected to the services to avail without any intermediate steps. So when the government or any enterprise will be deploying a digital model, the service providers can actually take a lead and create a model which is directly proportional to the commercial model which the enterprise is charging to the end consumer. I think that is precisely, I think I see the role of all the service providers, the ecosystem of service providers which we can play going forward.
One of the biggest advantages of the cloud that I thought is in this era of a lot of startups, it helps a lot of startups to come up and do something without doing any investment and are able to get there, at a small scale and then ramp up should it succeed.
Cloud as such, you can see it as a business model, but underlying the technology enables you to have much higher utilization of your hardware, right? That's the whole thing. The cloud compute in terms of selling something as a service is nothing new, but at the same time it's new. The novelty factor comes from that it enables you to use your hardware, which you have invested tons of money. The utilization can go up by a factor of 5 or 6 or 10. And it turns out that as an individual enterprise, you can never be as secure as you could be if you're using a cloud service. So it's just a matter of perception, and I think it has been used also as a bit of resistance from the enterprises to adopt cloud. But that thing is sort of, getting ruled over as we move along.
With this, I would just like to wrap up the session. Please give a round of applause to all the panelists here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We've got a good mix of
what is happening with the network today, where do we stand, what are the challenges, but also more importantly, where do we go from here in the next 3 to 4 years, what role does the private sector play, what are the roles that the government plays, and how do we work together to really transform and take the Prime Minister's vision of Digital India forward.
Indian telecom industry is going through a transformation phase. Important among them is creating a network infrastructure available to the masses. Over the time, there have been always a disconnect, maybe digital, maybe physical, maybe demographic, maybe connectivity by road, power. So the telecommunication is able to cover these things very fast.
It is important that the various organizations in the service provider space, come together and brainstorm how they can collaborate with each other and, be a very significant part of this transformation journey in the digital world.
It's my pleasure to invite on stage Mr. Aditya Chaudhary. He is the MD for the Communications, Media and Technology practice at Accenture.
50% of your waking time, you notice the time band there, 50% of your waking time is spent on media and comm activities, whether you are watching YouTube, Hotstar, Netflix, whatever you are doing, that's the time that you spend. So the telecom and the media becomes very important. That integration is something that will impact us all. Now 4G efficiencies will eventually start putting pressure on ARPU, and that is true. So you will start giving out data free after a period of time. The expectation will be data has to be cheaper. You would use more data. But remember, when you start using data and the switch of voice happens, ARPUs fall. And if you don't have a solution for that piece, you're in deep trouble. 3 insights that we want to leave behind with you. The first one, we are moving from hypergrowth 2 to hypergrowth 3, 10-year cycle into 7 years. Second insight, broadband 4G are very important and they'll get you to a certain stage. ARPUs will start declining because the digital life piece would have kicked off. Very important. Third is digitization. Huge area to be worked on. 30%, 35% done or will be done this year. 65-70% will still remain. Thank you very much. Pleasure.
I think today, digital imperative is simple. Is that we need more data, we need faster speeds, we need to be secure. So I think that is what we see continuously globally and now catching up a lot in India. All the operators understand the reality.
You must have the operator's perspective and their ecosystem. The second perspective that you definitely need to have is of the customers. The third is the government or the regulators. And all 3 perspectives are important.
Next session, which is on the digital service provider. Can I invite the moderator as well as all the other panelists on the stage, please?
Welcome to this session on the digital service provider. I would quickly like to request Mr. Eko Nelson of Ericsson. He can share some of his experience in India as well as his experience in the other markets.
I think that within India, the growth in data and the intervention of Jio in the market is really unique to India. And this is something that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And it's a big game changer in India, which I think will shake up the industry both in terms of consolidation and the types of services that are offered by the operators going forward. So virtualization is an important part of what the telcos need to really look at, both in terms of their core network and in their traditional data center, but also digitalizing the whole value, the whole fulfillment chain.
In India, we'll have 1/3 of the next billion internet consumers in the worldwide. India will constitute 1/3 of them. So it's a huge opportunity for all of us. So we have to understand what lies for us and how do we grow in moving forward.
What should a
digital service provider do? In our opinion, my personal opinion, three things. First one is collaborate, extensively collaborate. The second one is rationalize very quickly that regulations will come, help, not help. Some of these are global companies, there are presidential elections which have happened, there are multiple ramifications. So understand this is the way the world will be. The world is changing, and therefore we need to get slightly better at managing that change. The third most important piece is, can we all become digital? The amount of work that you do on a mobile platform and the way you're changing. So how do you change your companies who've been there for 10, 15 years, and change them completely? Inflection points for different companies will be different.
And on that tone, let me just thank Voice and Data for creating the right platform for discussing such an important topic. Thank you very much.
It's all about customer experience, or rather the citizen experience. So the one critical imperative in India is that we should have applications that are in different languages. The other is that digital infrastructure is the lifeline today of the whole digital transformation. All the data is passing through this, right? So this is something that the government and the private sector need to invest in quite a bit.
In India is not just another industry. It's an industry which has been working towards nation building and has transformed other industries by the critical role that it has played.
We come to almost the last part of the session this day, the fireside chat with the champions, followed by the Voice and Data Telecom Leadership Awards. For the fireside chat, can I request all the panelists to please come on stage?
Do you think demonetization is the game changer that the country was waiting for?
This would be one of the things which will make people to get digital and start using it, because there would be the push from the government that is there that try and make it, of course, cashless is not something possible. We'll have to get our retailers and everybody or somebody in the ground to be able to teach the people how to be able to use this. That is going to be an important aspect, especially when we get to the rural, that unless the people know how to use it, I mean, we can produce all these fintech companies can come and everything, but how to use them will have to be something that will have to be done there.
In your view, is telecom ready to take up that challenge?
Mobile broadband infrastructure is already there. The state of broadband infrastructure in India, as you know, is quite poor, and therefore there's a lot to be done, for which we are absolutely committed to making the investment.
A number of startups are emerging who tend to, they're like people who are monsoon tadpoles. They suddenly appear because it seems to be the trend. But in terms of the infrastructure, are we ready to really do that leapfrogging that will happen?
The infrastructure today is not ready, but since the requirement is there, definitely that plan and that execution and that rollout. So that's solely in context of demonetization. But definitely beyond that also the infrastructure requirement would be much different, much larger, much deeper across the country.
Okay, with that, I must thank my panel. It's really been a wonderful panel, and I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope the audience enjoyed yourself too. Thank you very much.
This brings us to the end of the discussion phase, and now it's time for recognition, felicitation, and celebration. So let's just dive straight in and get started with the Voice and Data Leadership Recognition Awards.
Product Innovation Award. And the winner is Kamal Nath, CEO, Sifi Technologies.
Voice and Data will like to recognize and felicitate one company that has been silently playing a very critical role across the country in building the new highway about which our Prime Minister Narendra Modi keeps talking, and that is broadband.
Special recognition for 2016. And the winner is Anand Agarwal, CEO, Sterlite Technologies. Telecom CTO of the Year. And the winner is Anil Dandan, CTO, Idea Cellular. Lifetime contribution, and the winner is Sandeep Das, Chairman and Senior Partner, Maitri Capital Advisors. Telecom Person of the Year. And the winner is Gopal Vittal, CEO, Airtel.
Brings us to the end of Telecom Leadership Forum 2016. Thank you once again, all of you, and look forward to seeing all of you next year soon.